My ex's demand, proof of love or red flag, evolved into, she said, if you still love me, do this one thing, but her demand exposed why we broke up. I'm 34. A year ago, I thought I knew what love was. Then Amber walked out when life got heavy. We didn't drift apart, we blew apart. She called it needing space, and 2 weeks later, she was posting photos with a new guy. I did the work. New routine, new apartment, therapy on Thursdays, morning runs that turned into a habit. I told friends I was fine until I actually was. I kept my head down and let time do its slow job. Then one night, my phone lit up, Amber calling. I stared at the screen like it belonged to someone else. I almost rejected it. Instead, I answered. Hey, she said. Soft voice. Familiar cadence. Like last year never happened. Hey, I said back neutral. She asked how I'd been. I gave the short version, sleeping better, keeping busy, seeing friends. She did the same. We talked about a concert we once missed, a dog that used to bark outside our old place, the way winters feel longer near the river. It sounded easy for a minute. She even said, I'm sorry for how I left. The words were careful, shiny, and light. For a moment, I thought this was closure. A decent end to a messy chapter. I could hang up and sleep well. Then her tone shifted by one small degree. Noah, I need your help. And if you ever truly loved me, if any of it was real, you'll do this one thing for me. I leaned back in my chair and looked at the ceiling. I knew that tone, kind on the surface, pushing underneath. What is it? I asked. She let out a long breath. I made a mistake. I took a loan to help a friend, and now it's spiraling. He bailed. I'm getting calls from these people, and I can't ask my boyfriend because it would look bad. I just need to make this go away. I didn't say anything. I could hear traffic on her end, a turn signal clicking, the faint hum of a car stereo. If you ever loved me, she said, please pay this off for me. I'll pay you back, I promise. You're the only person I trust. The room felt smaller. Not dramatic, just tight. A year ago, I would have reached for my wallet and figured out the details later. Back then, I believed love meant saying yes even when it cost me. What about your boyfriend? I asked. He can't know, she said quickly. It would look like I hid something. You know me better than anyone. You know I'd do the same for you. She always used that line, like a key that used to fit. I remembered the nights I drove across town because she forgot her keys, the weekends I canceled plans because she needed company, the times I said yes when I wanted to say no. How much is it? I asked. There was a pause. It's not small, she said. Then she named a number. It was a lot. Before I could respond, she added, it might be a little more because of fees. Who's the friend? I said. An old friend, she answered. You don't know him. A beat later. Well, he used to be a coworker. It's complicated. I kept my voice even. Is this a bank loan? Kind of, she said. More like a favor that turned into a loan. It's messy. That word again. Messy. Always just vague enough to slide past questions. I'm not trying to make your life harder, she said. I just thought, if any part of us was real, you'd help me now? Please. I looked at the photo on my wall. A sunrise I took on the first day I felt okay after we split. It reminded me of who I'd become since then. I hear you, I said. Let me think. Don't think too long, she said, voice low. They're calling every day. We ended the call. I set the phone down and sat in the quiet. Old habits tugged at me. Fix it. Step in. Carry someone else's weight. But another thought sat with me too. Last year, helping her cost me myself. I didn't sleep much. Not from panic. From caution. I replayed every word and asked a simpler question than love or loyalty. Is this honest? The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with coffee gone cold, scrolling through old messages I swore I'd never read again. The same pattern jumped out. Every time things got hard, she'd lean on guilt instead of honesty. I used to confuse that for love. Now, it looked more like control. Her voice still echoed in my head. If you ever truly loved me, you'll do this one thing for me. Not please help me. And I'm in trouble. A year ago, I would have jumped. I wanted to be the man who proved he was different, who proved he cared. But time and therapy had a funny way of turning fog into focus. And something in her story felt off. I called her back later that day. Amber, I said, can I ask something straight? Sure, she said quickly, like she'd been waiting. Why not ask your boyfriend? There was a pause, just long enough to mean something. He can't know, she said. He wouldn't understand. You do. You've always been the one who sees me. That line. Always flattering, always heavy. The old version of me would have softened. This time, it just made things clear. She didn't call for closure. She called because she knew I used to say yes. Still, a small part of me hesitated. What if she was in real trouble? What if this wasn't another story? I asked for details, names, dates, anything that made sense. That's when the cracks showed. First, it was a friend she helped. Then it was an old coworker. Then it wasn't a loan. It was a favor gone wrong. Every time I asked, the version shifted like sand. Amber, I said gently, how much is it again? I told you, around 3,000. No, last night you said 4. She laughed nervously. Well, yeah, with the extra fees. It's complicated. The more she talked, the less it added up. I wasn't angry, just tired. The kind of tired that comes when you finally recognize a game you've already played. Then came the final push. You once said you'd do anything for me, she whispered. Was that a lie too? That one landed. Not because it worked, but because it reminded me of how small I used to make myself. How I'd been just to keep someone from leaving. I took a slow breath. I meant it then, I said. But that love died when you left. The silence that followed was sharp. For a second, I thought she might understand. Instead, her voice turned cold. Wow, guess you never really cared. I should have known. And then, click. The call ended. Just like that. I sat there staring at my phone. Not with sadness, just awareness. She hadn't changed. Her proof of love was never about love. It was about leverage. A test I didn't need to pass. I turned the phone over and stared at the blank screen. It felt strange, peaceful, even, realizing I didn't owe her the version of me who used to flinch at guilt. That night, I went for a walk. The streets were quiet, the air sharp. Somewhere between the crosswalk and the park bench, a thought settled in. Love isn't proven by what you give up. It's shown by what you protect. And for the first time in a long time, I realized what I needed to protect most wasn't her. It was me. Still, something about her tone stuck with me. That urgency. That shifting story. Maybe it wasn't just about money. Maybe there was more she wasn't saying. I didn't know it yet, but the real answer, the real reason, would find me a few days later. And it wouldn't come from her. 3 days passed. No calls, no social media posts with vague quotes about trust or loyalty. I thought that was it. I even deleted her number, told myself that silence was the real closure. But closure, I've learned, doesn't always stay quiet. That evening, I was cleaning up after dinner when my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Hey Noah, you don't know me, but I think we need to talk. It's about Amber. I stared at the screen. No profile photo. No context. My first instinct. Scam. Then I saw the next line. I'm Dylan, Amber's boyfriend. My hand stopped midair. What does he want with me? I typed back, cautious. What's this about? His reply came fast, the kind of speed that comes from frustration. I found messages between you and her. She told me you're helping her with a loan. Said you agreed to pay it off. What's going on? For a moment, I didn't know what to say. So that was her angle. She told him a different story. One where I was the savior, not the ex she tried to reel back in. I took a deep breath and replied. I didn't send her anything. She asked. I said no. There was a pause. Then another message popped up, a screenshot. It was a cropped version of her chat with him. In it, she'd written, he said he still loves me. He'll help. I'll fix everything. I couldn't help but let out a humorless laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was familiar. She hadn't changed, just rewritten the same story for a different audience. I texted back. She told me she needed help paying off a debt. Said it was for a friend who disappeared. The story didn't add up. Another pause. Then Dylan replied. Figures. She always leaves out half the truth. I leaned back, phone still in hand. The whole thing felt messy, not dramatic, not cinematic. Just sad. Two people, both fed different versions of the same lie. Part of me wanted to walk away right then. But curiosity? It's a stubborn thing. What do you think's going on? I asked. No answer right away. The typing bubble appeared, vanished, came back. Then, not sure yet. But this isn't the first time she's done something like this. Last year, it was her car payment. Before that, a rent mix-up. Every time, it's someone else's fault. And always a secret. That rang a little too familiar. The names changed, the stories shifted, but the pattern stayed the same. I texted. I don't want to cause problems between you two. I just wanted to be clear. I'm not involved in whatever this is. No, you're fine, he wrote back. Honestly, thanks for being straight. I'm just trying to figure out what's real. We ended it there. I put my phone down, but sleep didn't come easily that night. Because underneath the frustration, a new question took root. If the loan was fake, what was she really trying to fix? By the next morning, I had my answer. A new message from Dylan. Can we talk? There's something you should know. Something told me this wasn't about money anymore. This was about a secret. One she didn't trust him to uncover, and one she hoped I'd unknowingly help her hide. And soon, I'd learn exactly what, and who, she'd been protecting all along. The next afternoon, Dylan called. His tone wasn't angry, just heavy, like someone trying to put pieces together without breaking more. Hey man, I wanted to clear something up. Yeah, I said quietly. Go ahead. That debt she mentioned, it's not real. Not the way she told you. She's covering for someone. Some old coworker she's been messaging behind my back. She owes him, not a bank. I sat still. Not shocked, not bitter. Just tired. It all clicked. She wasn't trying to fix her finances. She was trying to erase a mistake. So, she lied to both of us. I said. Yeah, he sighed. I thought maybe she'd changed. Guess we both learned the hard way. His words carried the same exhaustion I once lived with. We talked for a few minutes, not as rivals, but as two people who had both seen behind the curtain. There was no yelling, no blaming, just understanding. Before hanging up, Dylan said, I'll handle it. Thanks for being straight with me. When the call ended, I sat there a moment longer, just letting it all settle. I wasn't angry anymore. Honestly, I almost felt bad for him. He was standing where I once stood, defending someone who didn't know how to tell the truth. But I figured that was the end of it. I'd told the truth, he'd heard it, and we could both move on. Or so I thought. The next evening, my phone lit up again. Different number. Same name. Amber. I let it ring once, twice, and against better judgment, I answered. Her voice came sharp, a far cry from the soft tone she'd used before. Did you tell him? You had no right to do that. I closed my eyes. Tell him what? The truth? You lied to both of us, Amber. You don't get to play the victim now. You think you're better than me? She snapped. Just because you moved on? My voice stayed calm. No. Because I finally learned to stop rescuing people who drown on purpose. There was silence on the other end. A long, fragile pause. Then, a shaky breath, the first crack in her anger. I didn't know what else to do. For a moment, I heard something I hadn't expected. Not manipulation, not guilt, but regret. Real or not, it didn't matter. The old me would have rushed in, tried to soothe, to fix, to carry her burden one more time. But this version of me, he'd learned that some people don't want help, they want relief. And there's a difference. You turned to me, I said softly. Because you thought I'd still say yes. Because I used to. No defense came this time. Just quiet breathing on the other end. Then, a faint, bitter laugh. Guess you really are done, huh? I was done the day you left, I said. I just didn't realize it until now. She didn't argue, didn't beg, just hung up. This time, I didn't stare at my phone. I set it down and walked outside. The evening air felt steady, clear. For the first time since she called, I didn't feel pulled backwards. I wasn't angry at her. I wasn't sad. I was free. And for the first time, I realized closure doesn't always come from someone's apology. Sometimes, it's found in your own refusal. Still, I couldn't shake one thought. Maybe, deep down, she did feel sorry. Maybe not enough to change, but enough to finally leave for good. And when she did, the silence she left behind felt more peaceful than any "I'm sorry" ever could. Her last words echoed for a bit. That tired mix of pride and defeat. Guess you really are done, huh? After she hung up, I stood there listening to the quiet. Not the kind that presses on your chest, the kind that lets you breathe. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I owed her anything. Not forgiveness. Not one more chance. Nothing. The next morning came and went like any other. I made coffee and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Calm. I didn't replay the conversation in my head. I didn't wonder if I should have said more. It was over. Really over. That week passed without a single text or call. No apologies, no new excuses. Just silence. And in that silence, I realized something simple but true. She hadn't come back for love. She came back because she thought I was still the person she could lean on. But I wasn't that person anymore. The truth was, I didn't hate her. I didn't even wish her pain. What I wanted was distance, a clean line between who I was and who I'd become. She used to call me her safe place. Back then, I thought that meant love. Now I knew it just meant escape. One night, a week later, I got a message from Dylan. Just one line. You were right. She's gone. No context. Just the ending is written plain. I stared at the text for a moment, then typed back. Take care of yourself, man. He sent a thumbs up. That was it. Two strangers tied together by the same lesson, that sometimes the person you're trying to save is the one holding you under. After that, I stepped outside. The city lights hummed like background music, steady and quiet. I thought back to what she'd said the first night she called. If you ever truly loved me, do this one thing. She thought love was proven through sacrifice, through saying yes even when it hurt. But I learned something different. Love, the kind that lasts, doesn't ask you to lose yourself. So, I did what she asked in my own way. I proved I'd grown. I said no. And that no felt better than any "I love you" ever did. In the weeks that followed, life didn't suddenly turn cinematic. I still worked, still ran in the mornings, still got quite some nights. But there was a steadiness in it now, a quiet kind of peace that didn't depend on anyone else. Sometimes, when I think about her, it's not with anger. It's just with understanding. Some people never learn until they lose the one person who finally stopped saying yes. Amber left again, but this time it wasn't a breakup. It was closure, hers, mine, both. And as I turned off my phone and looked out across the skyline, one thought settled in like a final chapter. Love isn't about blind loyalty. It's about protecting the person you've worked so hard to become, even from the one who once made you forget who that was. That was my real proof of love. Not for her, for me. I appreciate you watching till the end. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more content.